Hello, this is Bradley Smith with Vigilix. We greatly appreciate your participation in today's webinar, How to Turn Your POS Support Center into a Profit Center. We know your time is valuable and appreciate that you have chose to join us today. All attendees will be muted to lessen the residual noise. If you are experiencing any technical or audio issues, please use the chat box to notify us, and we'll see if we can resolve the problem. Also, we will be taking questions, and we will address the questions at the end of the presentation. And you can type your questions into the panel in the Q&A box. Again, that will respond to as many questions as we can at the end of today's presentation. Also, we will be recording this webinar, and we'll be following up with the presentation and the recording of the webinar. And we'll send notification out to everyone as soon as that is posted and available. So with that, again, we appreciate your time this afternoon, and I will turn it over to Andrew Kurtz, Vigilix President and CEO, to start the presentation.
Thanks, Bradley. And I want to reiterate, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Don't know whether or not you're, if you have children, whether you're joining us from spring break or not. If so, a special thanks to you for taking that time out. What we want to talk today is about turning your POS support center into a profit center. And today we're going to focus really on some of the revenue sides. You know, in looking at generating profits, pretty simple equation, right? Can either, if you want to increase your profits, you can get more revenue, or you can lower what you spend. And if you joined us last month, we actually focused on the expense side of things, on what things that could be done to try to support more customers with your existing POS support staff and with your existing cost structure. So last month we focused on efficiency, on things around reducing call volume, on ways to maybe shorten calls and reducing the peaks during the day, and effectively, like I said, do more with less and impact that cost line. So if you missed that one, feel free to drop us a line and we'll be glad to send you a link to that particular webinar. But today we're going to focus on the revenue side. We're going to look at some different options that you have to drive revenue through support. So why are we even qualified to have this conversation? So I just wanted to real briefly introduce you to Vigilix if you don't know us. You know, we've been focused on this space, specifically the point of sale space, for more than a decade. We're focused on delivering hosted solutions around the support offering of point of sale dealers and their team. So we've worked very closely with our customers to build our product based on their needs and with their input. We've worked with dealers to implement different solutions over the years that they've used to successfully use tools such as Vigilix to bring new support offerings to drive additional revenue and efficiencies in their organization. And as a company, we are 100% focused on working with the channel. And one very important thing I want everyone to know and understand is we're here to help. So we would like to understand challenges you face and see if there are ways that us, with our tool and our knowledge in the industry, can help. So feel free at any point in time to reach out to us, whether you're an existing customer, whether you're a potential customer. Reach out to us, talk to us, and we'll be glad to talk through different options and different ideas and share our thoughts. So what are we going to look at today? We're going to actually cover over the course of this particular webinar several different topics. But I guess one real important point that I want to make to you is that the benefits of turning support into a profit center isn't simply measured by additional revenue. There are other benefits that you, as a support organization and as a trusted advisor to your customers, that you can glean from focusing on this support side of your operations. So we're going to talk through several different paths to profitability, and the three main areas we're going to focus on are reselling, which everyone is very familiar with, but then hopefully the other ones are things that get you to think a little bit maybe outside of the norm. Are there ways to recover your pre-existing costs that you've already invested in delivering support? Are there things you can do to try to recover those costs and drive revenue from that? And then what are some options for building premium level support packages? And we're going to look at several different options that we think are good ideas and that we've seen successfully done. Then we're going to take a quick run through on an ROI calculator that will let you look at just kind of show you some examples of different size companies, the potential impact, and give you an opportunity to look at what potentially might the opportunity be in some order of magnitude for your organization. And if you want that calculator, we can actually work with you later on looking at it in more depth for your organization. So, what are some of the benefits of support as a profit center? Well, the things I'm going to talk about here are all based on one premise, and that's you can't, in today's world, you can't survive simply being a dealer, and I use that word in quotation marks. You can't simply survive by simply reselling products. It's very important that you start to put in place defense mechanisms against commoditization of the items that are being sold in the marketplace. And one thing I really would like you to think about is we have sometimes where customers are afraid of being able to charge extra for different support offerings and different tools. But remember that as a general rule, if people aren't paying for something, they don't value it. So don't be afraid to put additional value out there and have a price tag on that for that additional value. Obviously, that has to be in balance. The price has to be in balance with what you're offering, but you don't have to be afraid to say we have an additional value add that we can bring to the table, and that there is a cost to it, but that there's even more value to it. So, in focusing on support as a profit center, it starts to have different methods of delivery of your services. And when we look at these premium service offerings that I'm going to talk about on these several different options, you're going to see that there are different ways to deliver service, and these offer opportunities to do things a little bit differently with your customers, to drive revenue, but at the same time to deliver what they see as additional value. Another very important item is simply creating that additional stickiness with your customer. I've heard that phrase used forever, but in the end, what it really means is that they see you as valuable, and the idea of not working with you, of you not being the person they turn to when they need support, is an idea that they just don't like. That they appreciate what you do for them, and as a result, that at renewal time they already see the value, and it becomes something that they want to do. And finally, in a lot of these cases, these tools that we talk about trying to deliver to customers are an opportunity for predictable revenue, or predictable recurring revenue. You have to excuse me. I have a little bit of a upper respiratory thing, so periodically I may be coughing. Sorry. So recurring revenue is obviously something that most organizations would like to start to build, but simply switching from perpetual sales to a pure recurring revenue model is a very difficult transition. And doing that through offering support offerings offers the opportunity to start to build that base. All right, so like I mentioned, we're going to be looking at this in 3 different tiers that we kind of look at as different escalating of values. One is a much more traditional model that everyone's used to of, I have products that I can resell and I make margin on them. Something we're all comfortable with, and we believe that in the support arena there are some options for that. But 2 of the other ones that we think are a little bit unique that you may not have thought of are reselling the tools you use today to your customers, we think for a different purpose, but basically recover those costs that you have already invested in your support contracts. And then, of course, the other one is to build additional value by creating premium service packages on top of your existing offerings. Excuse me. So let's look at reselling options. We think probably the best example of this would be offsite backup, but there are other options. But if we look at something like offsite backup, it is definitely commoditized today. It's just the traditional model that you know, but it is a key part of delivering support. We all sell the importance of backup, and most customers actually understand the importance of backup. They're doing it usually on-site, but they may not be doing it off-premises. So we think it's very important that you share with your customer the value of that. It's an insurance policy, and it's not an overly expensive insurance policy. For them to absolutely make sure that their data is recoverable if there was a disaster. So in this particular scenario, like I said, it's the model we're all used to. There is a retail price to it. Based on volume, you get a discount, and you basically sell it to your customer. And you can either build that into something that you charge annually for, and like with us, you would pay us monthly, but you can charge upfront annually with your customer. Some people have built that into their existing support contracts. That's kind of part of the premium support offering. If we look at that, bundling all that together, that's definitely an option. But if you look at it, and we show the profit opportunity, and we'll dive into this in a little more depth when we get to the ROI calculator. If your charge is $8 and your cost is $4.20, you're going to end up netting close to a 50% margin per site per month. Obviously, if that's one site, you're not jumping up and down. You can go buy a cup of coffee, but if you start multiplying this by all the different sites that you have, it can start to add up to some significant numbers that create a nice recurring residual. There are some other examples of products that you might just be able to traditionally resell. Some might be some security offerings from other companies. They might be malware support, antivirus support tools, firewalls. Those might be things that you can start to add just a traditional reseller model on top of it that are really related to support, but represent that ongoing recurring revenue opportunity. So that's one option. We think another great one to look at is, are there tools that you have that you could resell access to your customers? Your customers could use these tools, and you could basically recover your costs. So, when we look at this, from our standpoint, the cost of these tools are already built into your support contract costs. If you're delivering support, and the example we'll use is remote connectivity, so a remote access product. Most likely you've already built into the cost of your support contract the cost of a remote access tool. So to you, that's a sunk cost. If somebody buys support, you have it. So if you can resell that back to your customer, you're able to set your pricing level, value price that to your customer, and 100% of that goes straight to your bottom line since you already have the sunk cost. And at the same time, it creates value to your customers. On top of that, one of the real benefits is you know the tool. You use it all day, every day. So if you have to deal with support with your customers on how to use it, your support organization uses it on a regular basis. So the support of it and the value of it and the features and benefits of it are things that are very obvious to your organization. So we think if that's an opportunity, we think that's a great idea to look at. So once again, like with remote access, your support organization is using it to deliver support. But your customers might want to use remote access for business purposes, to get into their systems and run reports, to change prices, to change menu items, to see how things are going during the day. So different purposes completely, but there's no reason that your customers can't use the exact same tool. And if it's a product like ours, it's already paid for. There's no additional cost. On top of that, one of the things we've tried to do is make it so that you can brand this as your own solution, host it on your website, or make it appear to be hosted on your website, so that your customers can be driven not to a third-party site, but to take access to their system and to see additional value from you. And once again, that stickiness. This can be a way that you deliver that type of a solution to your customers in a PCI compliant manner that drives 100% profitability to your bottom line. So we think that's something to definitely think about. So you need to be asking yourself, does my remote access tool allow me to do that? If you don't have a remote access tool, I encourage you to contact us and talk to us, and we'd be happy to share and let you try our product and talk through how that particular opportunity works. This client access portal is something that for us is relatively new. This white labeled solution that you can either send customers to or embed in your own website. So if you're an existing customer and want to learn more, please reach out to us as well. So let's move on to the kind of the third level, and that's saying, we're gonna not just deliver the break fix type of support. We're gonna try to build some additional premium packages using low-cost monitoring solutions. What we're going to look at are some different escalating levels of premium packages. And one thing I want to absolutely emphasize, we are not recommending that you do all of these. Some customers, some dealers may decide, all 4 levels make sense based on my team as well as my customer base. Some may say, I'm just going to offer 2 different options, and these are pick 2, or a blend of a couple of them. We have some customers who very successfully say we deliver 2 types of support: great support at a premium level and no support. So that's another option. But in that scenario, they've definitely built in a lot of the techniques and tips that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to have some package names on these. These are just examples. You can obviously private label them for whatever you want them to be based on your business. So let's look at the first one. And here's the idea behind this. The idea is to basically have something always watching at your customer site for certain things that take place. We call this first alert. And the idea is to be watching, and when something happens, you don't generate work for you. You basically send the alert to the customer, and you give them, you tell them, we detected this, and here are instructions on how to fix this. And the idea here is it's a potential premium package that you can offer. The customer perceives this as having value and are willing to pay additional, pay a premium for this advanced notification of a problem. And it also gives the perception of being proactive. But ironically, if you give the customer advance notice and information on how to fix it, it can also help reduce your support calls. And this is something we talked about in our previous webinar. So I think this is a great entry point into offering this type of solution. You can pick just 3 to 5 things that are important and high value. For example, it might be credit cards not batching, might be disk space running low, and simply send information to your customer saying, we detected this, here's a recommended course of action, and have that as a premium service. Now when you look at the bottom right of the slide with the profit opportunity, you're going to notice that there are a range of prices, and that range is basically dependent on depending on what is the device that we're monitoring. So what we've seen a lot of times is that there might be, and there typically is, a different price that's charged for a back office server, for example, as opposed to a terminal or a handheld device or a kitchen display or something like that. So depending on what's being monitored and the value of it will change what the charge, the sales price is, as well as your cost. So let's escalate that a little bit. So we've got this concept of we detect the problem, we email the customer. An additional value on top of that would be to tell the customer, hey, listen, we're not even going to email you on some of these. We're going to automatically fix them for you. We have a premium service that will detect, will do everything First Alert did and email you, but it may add new monitoring, or for some of those previous ones, it may now start to automatically fix problems, such as, hey, we detected a problem, we're going to restart a service. Hey, we detected disk space is low. Well, let's go clean up some temp files and some places with log files and automate that process. So maybe we don't even have to tell the customer. Maybe what we tell the customer is, hey, we fixed this for you. But we didn't really fix it with a person. We had that automatically fixed. So ultimately, it eliminates the need for some of that customer support actions, either by the customer or by you. Also generates significantly faster resolution of the problem if as soon as it's detected, some mediation automatically kicks in. And so I think this is a great one. And by the way, this can be combined, it can be combined with the First Alert. This InstaFix concept can be combined with that First Alert as another good entry point, that there may be 3 things to email the customer and 1 thing to fix automatically as a starting point. So, ratcheting it up a notch. The idea of on-call. And by the way, you'll notice your company on-call is the way we're presenting these. This would be your branded solution of an on-call package or whatever you decide to call it. So the idea here is really simple. We're going to add another function, and that is we're going to get the support team on a problem as quickly as possible without waiting for a customer to make a phone call. But it's going to be limited to certain items. We're not doing it for everything. We're not taking care of every system that a client has. We're focused on their point of sale. We know that there's maybe 10 issues that we're going to focus on. We're still going to email the customer with 3 of them. We're still going to try to automate fixing 5 of them. But listen, if the customer doesn't fix it, or if the automation doesn't fix it, or if it's one of these other items, we're going to automatically get the help team, the support team, engaged. So this starts to one of the concerns people have is, boy, what's it going to do to my help desk? And what we've seen is it actually doesn't have a negative effect on the volume on the help desk, because you're getting information so quickly, and before something becomes a major problem, and you're getting it with so much details of exactly what the problem is and exactly what the solution is based on what's been detected, that the resolution is quick, and it has an additional added value of a bit of a touch point to the customer, because the support person can reach out to them and have that personal touch and say, hey, we fixed this, just want to let you know, make sure everything's okay. So that's another good option. And finally, the top one, we call it complete care. The idea here is to kind of move into a more taking on a larger role for your customers, and this depends on your organization. This is kind of the granddaddy, but it's not something we just would recommend jumping into, taking over a lot of systems that you're not comfortable with. You can actually start out by focusing more on the point of sale system, and maybe adding things around firewall maintenance, adding things around digital media. But the idea here is, hey, we're not just going to respond to issues that are detected, whether that's a phone call or a system telling us, but we're actually going to start to add routine maintenance to our offering, and start to really act as their IT department to try to manage these systems on a more regular basis, as opposed to simply react to problems as they occur. So once again, looking at the different options, we talked about reselling, just your traditional model of an offsite backup's a great example of that. We talked about recovering costs, maybe maybe your remote access tool, and then building those premium packages, those 4 different packages. So what I want to do is I want to jump in real quickly into an ROI calculator that we've created and just kind of demonstrate some of the opportunities we think are there and show you where the potential magnitude could be. We're going to look at 3 different sized companies. We're going to look at an organization that has maybe 100 customers on support. We're going to look at somebody who has maybe 500 customers, end user locations. When I say customers, actually end user locations on support. And then we're going to look at somebody who might have 1,000 of them, just to kind of look at the order of magnitude. And here's how this works. I'm going to try and explain the calculator a little bit. I'm not going to go into it in too much depth. One thing I encourage you, if you really want to investigate this, we'd be more than happy to send you a copy of this calculator. But likewise, really encourage you, we'd be happy to walk through this with you, talk about how these tools could be used, what we've seen, and how this would actually take, how to look at your organization and your demographics of your customer base and use it in this calculator to determine what the potential opportunity is for you. So, looking at this, we try to look at what's the average deployment look like, a typical site. And I didn't want to get overly aggressive with too many devices, the additional devices we're going to monitor. We have definitely seen that the biggest bang for the buck is on that back office server. That's where a lot of things can be detected. That's where a lot of issues that generate calls and where you can deliver proactive support, that there's a lot of value there. Backup can take place there. Remote connectivity can take place there. So we do think a lot is driven by the back office server, but there are opportunities, and we've seen companies very successfully start to offer monitoring and remote access to terminals, to handhelds, and so forth. So in this scenario, we're just going to look at an average deployment of 1 back office server, two additional devices, let's just say 2 terminals out there that we're going to add monitoring on. That's going to be kind of what our average is. Now you'll notice down here we have a question of, do we even want to include additional devices in the calculator? So we can turn that on and off and see what impact that has as well. So obviously when we look at the average typical deployment, you got to leave those outliers out. You're going to have super large installs. You're going to have the one-off, 1 terminal, maybe even just a standalone system. But this is, what does the average look like to try to get the potential impact? Then we have questions. What percentage of your customers do you believe you can sell backup to? And selling backup might mean literally selling them backup. They're paying for a line item like that. Or it might mean we sold it to them, but it was built into a new support contract offering. We built a premium package that not only included those items we had listed of some of the monitoring and alerting and automatic fixes and so forth, but it included automatic backup. So in this scenario, let's say we're going to start out and say, hey, we think we can get 50% of our customers using our offsite backup solution. Now, this is unique to this next question is very unique to our offering. And I don't want to go into it in too much depth, but we recommend that you sell to your customer unlimited backup of their point of sale data. Or I don't care how much size it is, you know your price, and and you'll notice down here, we recommend $8. $8 a month, you sell it to your customer. If you can get more, that's great. We don't publish that number. But at a minimum, charge $8 a month. Why? Because we have an offering that you will make a margin. You will not get charged more for a site than, in this case, $6.40. That's at the lowest volume. You will make money selling it at that. But we offer an option for you to maximize that profitability, because what we found is that not every site needs unlimited. We have an option that limits the backup to 4 gigabytes. And so what we recommend is, and we have a way to automatically switch something from that 4 gigabytes to the unlimited without you doing anything, and the whole goal of that is to maximize your profitability. That's why we put that product in place. So this model, this ROI calculator is designed to show that. In this case, we're saying we believe that out of all of our sites, only 33% of them are going to need the unlimited. The rest can be backed up in 33 or in 4 gigs or less. So next question. Oh, by the way, one other thing on the calculator. Everything related to backup is calculated looking at the back office server. We're making no assumptions about backing up additional devices. Likewise, on remote access, what percentage of customers do you think you can sell your remote access tool? Once again, if you remember, we talked earlier, we assume this is already built into your costs. So you've already paid for it for all your customers. So what we really want to look at here is what is the profitability. You think you can sell 50% of your customers in this scenario access to their system using your remote control tool. We do offer a switch in this that lets you look at it. Well, what if I want to know if my cost? What if it's not already built into my model? I don't have a tool, and I just wanted to start adding this and selling this to them. So we can flip that on and off and look at it. And finally, what percentage of your customers do you think you can deploy monitoring to? We haven't assumed the premium tiered packages. We just basically assume there's one package in this scenario. It's basically going to be adding $8 on the back office side and $2 for each of the additional devices per month to your support offering. You can change and play with those numbers if that, depending on what your tiers are. But it allows you to look at, in this scenario, we're going to say 50% of our customers we think we can get a premium support package sold to. So, starting with those assumptions, if we have 100 customers, you'll see, and once again, by the way, well, if we look at this on the backup side, we're generating profitability of $1,800 on a remote access tool. Assuming that we want to factor in the cost, we're adding $2,700 to our bottom line. If we've already got that sunk cost, if that's out the door no matter what, and this is all added to the bottom line, that's up to $4,800. And on the support offerings, you can also see that we're adding $4,300, a little above $4,300. And one of the things that we emphasized last month is we're also doing things that help lower our support costs, which is not factored into this at all. So this really adds over $11,000 for a dealer who simply has 100 customers on support and is only getting 50% adoption. If you start to make it a more broad offering, if you go with something like we deliver great support, which includes backup, which includes includes monitoring, the numbers start to get even more dramatic. This assumes that your support contract has this built in. Now, I'm not going to use 100%. I'm just kind of one of those believers that 0% doesn't make sense and 100% is probably not right. But let's assume that of all your support customers, you can get 95% of them to buy this premium support offering. And once again, this assumes that your offering to them is just this great support. That's our option. We have great support and no support, or it might be great support and on-demand, time and material, more expensive support. Now you see the numbers start to grow. Now, I don't want to change the percentage of customers where we sell them remote access. Obviously, if you can sell more of them remote access, the numbers get up. But I'm going to make the assumption here that you're not building that into your support plan. That's actually something that your customer would buy from you separately. So we do have some customers who have built that into their premium support package as well. And you can see that the numbers grow to being over $16,000 bottom line profit on an annual basis. So if we step back and look at this again, dropping back to that 50% adoption, and we look at a larger organization who has maybe 500 customers on support and they're going to get that adoption. So we're starting to generate some big numbers. We're generating, in this case, $57,000 of additional bottom line revenue to the company. And if we're getting that 95% adoption, the great support or no support option, up to $87,000 a year, we're just adding to the bottom line. And if we look and we grow and look at a very large organization, 1,000 customers on support, we're adding close to 120,000 bottom line profit. And once again, if we look at the numbers, if we can get larger adoption, close to $200,000 just added to the bottom line, simply by adding some new options that are valuable options to our support offering, selling access, or our customers' use of the tools that you already are paying for, and selling them the insurance policy of something like offsite backup. So the numbers, obviously, these numbers represent, these are just examples. Once again, we'd love to sit down with you, look at your company with you, see what the impact could be. Glad to send you the calculator if you'd like a copy. But we think that those numbers can really, if you look at them, they're compelling. So, what can you do today? I recommend step back and look at the tools you have today that you can monetize. If you don't have a monitoring solution and you want to try ours for free, even test the waters with some of your customers, sending them some emails on certain things, or automatically fixing a few things, or generating a support ticket for your organization. We'd be glad to talk to you about trying it at 25 sites for free and see what kind of impact you think it would have and what kind of positive impact it has with your customers. So if you have a remote access tool, look at it. See if you're not already selling access to the customer, make sure you can do it under the model without additional cost. Or if there is additional cost, make sure you factor that in. Once again, with ours, we've built into our business model that there is no additional cost if you decide to let your clients have access to it. But see if your clients want to have remote access to their systems using a tool that you already use, and if you have a good, easy way to make that happen. And then obviously talk to them about backup. I'm going to guess that if you're not talking to them about backup, they're hearing it on the radio. They have somebody talking to them about it, so be the one to talk about it if you're not already talking about offsite backup. Those are easy initial steps, and then look at what your premium packages could be. You may just start out and look at our templates, say these are the ones that I think make sense. Maybe I just want to start with this one, but ultimately you need to find the sweet spot for your organization that doesn't overpromise. It's something that you actually believe that you can do, and obviously from our standpoint, we think putting information into the hands of the customer is obviously something that you can do. We know we have a tool that can make that happen quickly, and doesn't generate any additional effort on your part other than selling a premium package to your customers. So beta test them with your customers, learn what they like, learn what they don't like, and then ultimately nail down that sweet spot and start to migrate those legacy customers over to these new options as the year progresses. So that's kind of our recommendations on the steps to take. Listen, once again, I really appreciate your time. If you're interested in a copy of the tool, email Bradley Smith at Vigilix.com. And also, if you're interested in the free trial, you have a URL there, www.vigilix.com/tryme, or you can email Bradley as well. That's really all I had to talk about today, what I wanted to present. Hopefully I presented a couple of ideas you hadn't thought of. Hopefully I've made it clear that I believe it really is easy to get started, and I appreciate your time. And with that, Bradley, I'm going to turn it over to you if there are any questions.
Appreciate it, Andy. And we might also ask suggestions for some call surf recommendations as well.
Yeah, I apologize to everybody.
It's that time of year. A couple of questions did come through, and I'm just kind of run through in no particular order, just kind of the way they came in. Question is, who do we contact to discuss setting up these different service profiles that you mentioned? And what I would say is, since my contact information is up on the screen, if you would contact me, and we'll get you coordinated with Andy or maybe Gary in our support department to walk through that process with you.
Yeah, and to that point, you definitely reach out to Bradley. We'll get something set up, but we would love to talk through with you whether all four options make sense, whether there's a kind of stair-step approach, whether there's a good way to try a couple of them and see the impact it has on your customers. But Bradley is definitely the first point of contact.
Yeah, I think one comment on that in other companies that we've worked with in the past is definitely a walk before you run process to go through an adoption process, both internally from your support operations, but with your customers as well. I had a question on remote control come up. Are there any limitations on remote control access? For example, how many people can access a remote device at the same time?
With our tool, we have it configured so at any one time up to 5 people can be remoted into an individual system. That's kind of what we have now. With our tool, they're sharing the desktop. They're not going behind the scenes, and so they would be sharing the same screen. So that would typically be used if you're trying to do training or have support looking at something with somebody else remotely. Um, but the way our product is configured, it's up to 5 at any one point in time.
And one thing to mention also, and we have more details on this, was the security related to remote control, limiting who can have access to what down to an individual level within an organization. One question also on offsite backup. Can we allow customers to recover their own data with offsite backup?
Oh, that's a good question. You could. Um, yeah, with our product, you definitely can do that. You would give them access to the portal and only access to their sites, where they could then go and excuse me, and download their own data. So that's definitely something that can be done. I don't think I think traditionally the dealers have worked with the customer to help them recover that data, but it's definitely doable.
Definitely part of the value-added service that you want to offer to the customer to distinguish this type of backup in your service than some of the other radio advertised solutions, probably that you mentioned. I mean, that's part of the value-add service that the dealer can come in and provide to the customer. One other thing is, can you give a couple more examples on the monitoring / alerting capabilities that, and I assume would be valuable added based on some of the first example that you gave from sending the alerts to the customers?
Oh, you know, we've had situations where there might be a particular service that is detected to be hung. And by the way, this is not as simple as is the service running, where we might add monitoring that actually checks. And as an example of that, maybe it's a credit card gateway, and you want to verify that the service is not just running, but it's actually communicating and responding. So setting up diagnostics and letting the customer know, hey, if you're not going to automatically fix it, my recommendation in that scenario would be probably want to try to automate that fix, but emailing them and say, hey, we recommend you go. And maybe the way you set that kind of thing up is you have an icon on the desktop just to let them know, hey, double click on that, and it'll stop and start the service. Or the instructions that go to them could actually tell them to stop and start, and here's how you stop and start a service. Backups are a good example. And when I say backups, I mean daily backups. Maybe the daily backup at the end of the day of a system didn't occur. So you email the customer and say, hey, we noticed that your backup didn't take place, and here are the steps to go through and kick off a new backup just to make sure that we do have a good copy locally. Once again, if there's offsite backup, there's another copy offsite. But I don't recommend that offsite backup totally replace. I think you need to have a local copy simply to be able to, if there's not a true disaster, to have the ability to recover faster by pointing at local files. So monitoring that type of thing. We've seen things as simple as we've noticed your system's been up for more than 30 days, and you know we recommend if you get a chance here in the next 48 hours before you leave one night, reboot it. And that simply being a preventative thing of, hey, you know what, it's amazing how often rebooting something causes problems not to occur. So so simply recommending a reboot if a system's been up for more than 30 days or 3 months or whatever that magic time frame is. So those are some good examples of things you might want to put in the customer's hands. Obviously, I think I mentioned disk space. Hey, we noticed you're running low on disk space. Recommend you go look at pictures or music if you have that kind of stuff on the back office server. Hopefully not. You know, maybe here are some directories to look at that are log files, and make sure that these aren't too big. So that's another good example.
Yeah, well, that's it for the questions, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So, again, as Andy mentioned, if you do have any questions, follow-up, get access to the calculator, please email me at bradley.smith@vigilix.com, and we'll be happy to get that out to you. And as I mentioned before, we have a recording on this, and we will be sending out the link to the recording webinar once we have it posted and available. So please keep watching your inboxes for additional follow-up webinars that we will be offering. We're going to continue this series. The feedback that we've gotten on them thus far from the ones we've had has all been very positive, and generated some good conversations. So again, thank you very much for your time today, and hope everyone has a good afternoon.